Hola, hola, and buenos dias, GnGs. My name is Trekkw2ks, and welcome to another episode of Weekend Crypto, brought to you here on the Gentleman Crypto Network. If you don't know, the basic idea is I use a no price talk filter of covering crypto news that happens between a Friday and a Sunday and recapping it all on a Monday morning. And I also do it from the standpoint of, is this an event? Is this an indicator? Is this a pattern? Is this a trend? But it's for the things that scratch my brain based on the cross references that I do in other areas, right? So if you're new to me, that's the basic breakdown. I appreciate you coming and taking the time to actually, watch or listen to what I'm saying. For the folks who've been, down with it for a minute, I appreciate y'all for coming back. For the lurkers, hey, I see what the numbers do in the back end, so I'm okay with y'all being there too, just lurking in the background, right? For the scammers, I admire your creativity. And I'm just saying this to the rest of y'all. Please don't get got. We are in the season right now, right? But anywho, got a couple of stories, not too many things differing outside of the whole ETF buzz and talk and, sell the news and all of that funness with the FUD and the FOMO. I mean, it was definitely a heavy rotation of ETF related stories. And I basically cut all of those out. I got a couple of things that scratched my brain. Some of these things you might find interesting. If you've been following me for a minute, I do a lot of outside of the US talk, outside of the West talk. So it might be something in Asia, it might be something in Latin America, it might be something in Africa. And I say that to bring up that, remember, this is, if we really run in with the whole thing of like blockchain technology is decentralized and the ideals of everyone and anyone should have access, like, why would I only talk about things going on in the US? Especially when there's a number of other things happening in other countries and quote jurisdictions. So thank y'all for being here, and live chat is open so we can get into some of the stuff that I'm going to get into. I do appreciate the pushback, and as we say, we do not delete comments, but we do keep receipts. As stuff gets messed around with, it's not on us, it's YouTube 9 times out of 10 messing with the stuff. Other thing to note is, house cleaning wise, this episode is brought to you by CJ the Smart Guy. He is a CPA who is government certified to deal with taxes, and he focuses particularly on crypto related taxes. Now, as we know, regulatory stuff is here. IRS is saying what they're saying. Some of y'all have not been crossing your T's and dotting your I's. I'm not telling you have to use this man. What I am saying to you, though, is if you are in the American jurisdiction, and me not being a CPA, a financial advisor, or a lawyer, but at least for the smarter people that I pay attention to who are those things, like CJ, who is actually my CPA, it makes sense to basically cover your ass stupid. Cross your T's and dot your I's, because the IRS already said that they're definitely going to start coming at the regular Joe Schmo because they realize that they're easier targets. Bottom line, it's a lot of work to go after criminal people. It's not as much work to go after people who aren't intentionally looking to avoid their taxes, but who may have messed up in their tax preparation. Just saying, just throwing that out there. Nonetheless, link for his stuff will be in the description, and it's basically to his TreeLink thing. So it breaks down like, hey, do a counseling session, or like, here's the website, you can check his stuff out there. I don't get a kickback on this. This is not a referral link. This is me saying, here is a resource for you to find a professional tax person who is actually in the crypto space and has been here for a minute, okay? And so I'm not telling you got to use him, but whoever you find, make sure you do your due diligence in making sure they understand this space, and they're not just one of those people who, I bought the software last week and I realized I can get X amount of more cost on the people who are doing crypto versus regular taxes. Just throwing that out there. Anywho, I'm rambling. Let's jump into these stories. I got a couple of things, all right? Here we are on the first story. I've seen this one a couple of times being repeated as far as Google Play Store taking off the Binance and the OKEx exchange apps on their Indian market. And the basic idea is that the financial institution, something, I forget what the name of the specific unit is, but the Indian version of that is like, hey, we don't want our folks having access to these particular foreign exchanges. Here's the funny thing about what India is doing, which is really messing with the people. And it also goes to show just how like people are people. You could tell them but so much of what to do. And when it doesn't sync with what their reality is in front of them on the ground, at a certain point, you can only do but so much before they just start running whichever way they want. So India came up with saying, hey, we're going to start taxing the local exchanges. Whatever exchange you're on, if it's local, if it's here in the country, we're going to start hitting you on the transactions. And so people just started jumping to foreign exchanges. Then India turned around and was like, hey, we're going to start finding the foreign exchanges who are letting our local people use their exchange because these exchanges aren't registering here in the country. We want them to have a presence, a physical presence, and register here in the country. Because at the end of the day, part of this situation is a capital flight thing. India is an interesting mix for its fiat physical money, its financial institution side money, not institution, but like its banking system as far as how many people are in the banking system, how many regular people versus the quote unbanked population that largely deals in physical money. Then you take into account how many of those people who are within the physical market are also dealing in the crypto stuff, as well as how many people who are in the banking markets or banking systems also dealing with crypto. So India comes up with this and is like, well, we're just going to start blocking and outlawing these foreign exchanges until they comply with getting registered in our country and having a physical presence here. Why? Because all jurisdictions, regulatory folks, always want someone they can go out and touch for when they want them to do something that might not necessarily be in their interest. So that's what's going on here. I guess to say like this is just a pattern of it, right? All of the different financial departments of like notable governments are going to find one way or the other to make sure that they can be more accountable to how much capital is moving in, around, and through their jurisdiction. It will come in various means. I've talked about the taxes stuff. I've talked about the protectionism regulatory stuff that comes up. And this is just another example. Hey, you're not a registered security medium. You need to register with us and you need to have a physical presence here. Why? So that way we know, quote, who you are. How about the American government still got to touch Binance, even though it wasn't registered in the country. So arguably, why can't India's government do the same thing? I don't know. Other thing to note is there is definitely a difference in how this new CEO handles their public relations compared to how CZ did stuff. Like when stuff was popping off, CZ ain't have no problem jumping on Twitter and, you know, saying what he said, which arguably was a better, I think, and if you've listened to me for a while, you know there's definitely some things I was not a fan of CZ about. But when I compare this guy to CZ, arguably CZ was more of the community than this guy could ever be. Arguably, CZ was more in tune with what was going on with, I don't want to say the degen, but like with the culture, he was I don't think this space or most people in this space will appreciate the presence that CZ emanated in the crypto space in comparison to the new guy. It might be a little bit of a while before people start appreciating it, but nonetheless, I think it's a noticeable difference in how the company moves now compared to how it was with CZ. And again, Binance barely said anything about this. It's just like, oh yeah, we know that's happening and we'll get to it. We're not really too stressing about it. Why? Because for the people who already had the app, it still works. And you know, VPNs are a thing. And as long as you're not off-ramping or on-ramping on the fiat side of it, you do what you do. You know what I'm saying? But hey, just remember you in the jurisdiction you're in, and you have to deal with those consequences when they come to you. Jumping on to this next joint. Ooh, excuse me. So I gotta say, this one threw me off with the name. I didn't understand what was going on. I had to look into this. So basic story here is pooperscoper introducing innovation wallet management in cryptocurrency world. All right, here's the thing to understand. First off, when I initially read this, I thought they were talking about Ethereum-based wallets, but it turns out it's actually Solana-based blockchain, Solana-based coins and tokens. And so this is a Solana wallet thing. But I imagine at some point they're going to look to push into the EVM space, make a version that works with EVM. It doesn't say this in the article. It really doesn't say it in the article. And I'm assuming that it's more one of those, like the author assumes you know what, what's the name of the Juniper, I think is the name of the exchange. And it's weird because, all right, so here's what happens. Pooperscoper scans your wallet. It says, hey, you have these airdrops. Hey, you have these junk tokens or coins or whatever. The market's not doing anything with them. Do you want to get rid of them? And we'll give you bonk, B-O-N-K, in exchange for it. Let me put in the caveat here of just because I cover a story does not mean I am actually endorsing any token, coin, or product or surface or company unless I specifically say that. And even then, just because I said I like it today, it don't mean I'm going to like it next week. Case in point, I was good with Ledger last year and the many of years before, Ledger hard wallet. I'm not good with the Ledger hard wallet no more. I'm making changes. I'm not telling you this because you have to do anything. This is just me saying, I'm doing my due diligence to deal with my situation. I don't know your situation, but don't take any of the stuff that I'm saying as price talk or as endorsement, again, unless I specifically say something. And it doesn't mean I won't change 2 months from now. All right. So here you have it that Bonk, BONK, is a Solana-based token or coin, whatever. And so the basic idea is that pooperscoper scans your wallet, lets you do the whole thing of figuring out what you want to keep, what you don't want. It'll exchange it through Coinbase for you with to give you Bonk. And in my mind, it's just like, well, why don't you just go directly to Coinbase? The other thing to note with how this thing is explained, it tells you that it does like a secure scan, but it doesn't really get into like, well, what part of the information is encrypted? Where is there anything as far as like PII that's involved? Like, if I go through the pooper scooper process, is there any KYC part that I have to deal with? It doesn't talk about that. Now, I should say, I'm being ignorant to the fact I haven't messed with Bonk. I haven't messed with Coinbase in how many years now? I barely touched Solana even back in 2021 or 2022. So I'm not the most up to date on all of that. But I bring this up for those folks who are the Solana fans out there. This might be something you might want to look into. But I also say it as far as I think this is an indicator of, how do I say this? This and the funny part is this is not actually a new business concept, because crypto.com, the wallet, used to do the same thing. If you had dust of any kind of coin or token in your wallet, it would always ask you if you wanted to convert it into what their stuff was. And I forgot what the name of it is right now, but if you use crypto.com's wallet, you know what I'm talking about. If you use the exchange, you know what I'm talking about. So this is not innovative / this is not new. So the article is totally misleading in that title. It's not new, it's not innovative. This has already been done a number of times before. The other thing to note is it makes me look at it and go, well, is this like a sideways, like, all right, in traditional stocks, you have a thing called stock buybacks where the company will go to the purchasers of the stocks and they'll buy it back from them. This makes me wonder, are we looking at a hybrid form of a crypto buyback? Because where is the pooper scooper company getting the bonk from? Like, and what was the projection of how much they would need in order to be able to cover this? Nowhere in this article does it break down like, well, here's the adoption of how many people have downloaded the pooper scooper third-party application and how many wallets they've scanned. There's no information like that in this article. But it makes me wonder, what is the 3-5 year plan out for making this move of gathering all of the Solana derivatives and then turning around and being like, all right, here's this one thing that has no apparent utility outside of the Solana setup? I don't know. I might be wrong, but I'm not certain how to read this. I think this is an indicator of something going on within Solana in a down the road setup for what they might be trying to do with Bonk, which also, because Bonk is connected to Coinbase, there is a site in the Coinbase tree path thing that lists like all of the coins and companies that they are connected to. You can't get to it nowadays. Like, you got to know the direct link or something like that. But I knew somebody who used to just go, I'm gonna look at what the list is month for month, and then whatever they do on the list month for month, they would just go and get X amount of like that coin or token, or find a way to like put money into that company as a startup. I don't know how it played out for that person because I haven't spoken to them in years, but this is like some back in the day stuff. I remember Bonk being on the, hey, here's one of the companies I'm paying attention to because Coinbase is paying attention to it. The point of what I'm going to is that, because I got another Coinbase story too. Coinbase is playing at multiple different angles in the ecosystem, and they're doing it in multiple areas. I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't see the end user, right? The person looking to get into this financial setup, this financial asset setup, the system. I don't know if I see this as a pro for, and granted, the airdrop stuff is what it is, right? As far as the spam stuff, the junk stuff, the scam stuff. But it almost makes me wonder if there will be some kind of Solana ETF. because Bitcoin just opened the gate. Like whatever which way you look at it, whatever the timeline is, there will be other types of ETFs. Why? Because you have greedy people and you have those who like to manipulate the system with derivatives. And that's at least my take on it. That's how my brain is looking at it. If you disagree with me, comments is open. Please give me some pushback. Try to sell me on this in the comments. I'm curious to see how one of y'all would try to sell this to me, because I'm not a Solana person, but you might see something better than me. And do note that I think there's already something that does this on Ethereum. And if this gets any like real attention or traction as far as the adoption within the Solana wallets, expect to see it on an Ethereum wallet at least within like 6, maybe 9 months. All right, jumping over here. Here we go. So you can play Super Nintendo and other classic games on Bitcoin. Here's how. Now, when I first read this, I thought they were talking about something very different. And then what I read was like, oh, that's not what I thought. That's not what I was initially understanding. So the basic idea here is that the folks who are really pushing the whole ordinals thing and really looking to expand how Bitcoin's blockchain is used beyond monetary transactional exchanges figured out how to be able to do classic Nintendo games such as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mario Brothers. They even did the joint with Pac-Man and Snake. And the basic idea is, and again, remember what I said about me covering a story does not mean I'm endorsing the actual thing. So there is a startup named Ninja Alert, which basically is like, hey, if you buy our thing, it will allow you to have access to play these, what they call open or public play games on the Bitcoin protocol. Now, do your own due diligence and research about the name of the stuff. Link will be in the description for this, so you can, do your own due diligence and looking and figuring out like, would I actually be interested in something like this? Because this is not what I initially thought they were talking about. There's a kid, and when I say a kid, he's like, I think he's like 19 or 20. And he basically figured out how to do on the back end where if you play Mario Brothers, like old school Mario Brothers, right? When you're going through and you're like knocking the blocks that have the coins in them, those would translate into Satoshis. The way he did it was you had to have a wallet to be able to and change some of the code on the back end so that the controller input for you hitting the box would trigger that you got the award. The award signal or the messaging would be sent to the wallet that, all right, the player acquired another point, and the point would be translated as a Satoshi. But the whole thing was you had to fund it on the back end. So you had to have the Satoshis already to put in the game. There's another game that's a Mario Brothers based game. It's like a Royal Rumble called 1UP. It's a Royal Rumbles kind of thing. And whoever, I think it's more of a betting game though. Like whoever is like last man standing wins. Again, but you still have to have the Bitcoin already on the back end to fund the wallet connected to the game. That's not what they're talking about here. The reason why I bring it up, because this is really more for my techie folks, for my Bitcoin folks and like broader applications. Folks are definitely figuring out interesting ways to add stuff into the Bitcoin protocol. Yes, not everyone agrees with the ordinals or with putting stuff like this on the Bitcoin blockchain. But remember at the end of the day, it was that thing about like, it's supposed to be permissionless. It's supposed to be inclusive. And like, hey, if your 5 people want to do it this way, all right, bet your 5 people do it that way. But you also have the freedom to be able to go and hard fork it and do it your own way. I think a lot of folks forget that right now. I understand the part of what the maxis are talking about and like the whole purist thing, but arguably that's like the whole extremism stuff, right? Like, because it's one of those like, well, what version of it do you say is the right version? Is it the King Henry version that's the right version of the Christianity, or is it Martin Luther's version of the Christian breakdown? Like same thing here in the Bitcoin protocol. Are we calling it? Well, Tom has shown us that the Craig Wright version has not been the true Bitcoin, so to say, and neither has God, what is his name? I can picture his face right now. I can picture him throwing up middle fingers and everything, but I can't think of his name right now. But Bitcoin Jesus, y'all know, if you've been around for a while, you should know who I'm talking about. And Tom has showed us that his version of Bitcoin has not held up to be the most widely accepted version, right? So yeah, just throwing that out there. This is more about the tech development as far as like, oh snap, people are actually hosting games on the Bitcoin protocol. Granted, it's not like Final Fantasy level graphics, but it's still a dope thing to be able to do, and you can play the game in a web browser pretty much. Link for this is going to be in the description, and they got some demo videos in the links in the article. It links to demo videos. That's what I mean to say. All right. Oh, no, it was this one. GameStop bails on crypto gaming, killing NFT marketplace. This is going out to the gamers in the space, the NFT folks. I mean, what were you really expecting from GameStop? As well as considering that they were a zombie company for like what, from 2018, I think 2019, because like the Wall Street's bet thing happened in 2020, if I remember right. I might be way wrong on the date, but the point being is that they were doing things that definitely were not in good intention for the users of GameStop. And then when they try to do the grifting move of crossing over into getting into the crypto space, it was like, oh, we'll do this crypto wallet, and then they dumped with Immutable X on the market. And I think, oh, that was the thought I had too initially. I think part of it is that they didn't want to invest the resources that would be needed to make it a notable, to give it a notable presence in the NFT market. Example, you can't hire 20 people and only, let's say, 1 or 2 of the people actually be the marketing people and say, hey, come up with a campaign so that we can grow our footprint in this space. Especially if you're not making your own chain, you don't have the people who know how to deal with the wallet side of it, you're not getting organic people from the space like that. You're thinking, I can just come up with these, I can come up with folks from outside of the space who know traditional marketing, who know traditional business, who are thinking that the gamer culture is exactly the same as the crypto culture. And if you've been in this space for a minute, you know that it's not. And there's definitely different subcultures in this whole thing, right? And so I think that part of their issue is, and will be, is that they don't want to, one, take the time needed to develop a presence and grow their market share within the space, as well as they don't want to put the money in, and they don't want to acquire the talent. Again, arguably, GameStop has been a zombie company since like 2017 or something like that, but it still works because for whatever reason, like, I don't know exactly why, honestly, I don't, but you know, there's like, and there's stores like everywhere. I know they closed a number of spots down, but I still see a number of places, and the game systems are there, and people are going in and buying and this and that with stuff. So it's just like, I don't know, y'all. I never thought it was going to be a good transition for them from the get-go, just because of how the differences between the gaming culture and the crypto culture, even though it's not to say that people can't be a part of both things. But in general, I don't think the marketing works the same way. That's my take on it. My take. If you disagree, comments is open. All right, jumping over here. So I did do a clickbait as far as the whole thing with Gary Gensler saying that Bitcoin is centralized, but I took it from here. So SEC chair says Bitcoin is centralized after approving ETF. So it's not exactly what he said. All right, what they did, what Crypto Potato did, and links for this stuff will be in the comments. Do note that at the time of me talking about these, covering these different articles, it doesn't mean that's what it's going to look like days later. Stuff could change between tonight and tomorrow. Stuff could change while I'm reading the thing right now. Some sites will let you know that they've done updates. Some sites don't. So keep that in mind if you're looking for this stuff later on. Now, his point is valid to a degree. What gets me is how they cherry picked his comments that lead to the title. So he makes the point, and it's funny because he also said at the same time, like, well, just because we let the ETF stuff happen, it doesn't mean that I'm endorsing Bitcoin, and it doesn't mean that I'm endorsing, you know, derivatives of Bitcoin. It's like, and Zay brought the same point up on Friday. It's like, but that's literally what your signature on the documentation means, sir. It means you're endorsing whatever thing you're letting go through. You're letting the ETF go through. That means your department, under your guidance, is endorsing that this is, quote, a financially sound product, and that the public can engage with this, quote, lawfully. But yet this man turned around and told y'all, it doesn't mean that I actually approve this. Now, King said he had a whole thing on like why he think he's double talking. I tend to agree with what King was saying, but the point of what I want to bring out here is if you have an understanding of how the precious metals market works as far as the paper market side, and how the stocks and the whole thing of the certificate of ownership stuff works, to a degree, it makes sense in what he's saying, because part of this whole thing with the ETF to come out is now you have what do they call it? Trunked. You have centralized the path in which this is going to be the part where the adoption curve is going to look crazy, because as they was talking about on Friday, now you're going to go to the pensions for the states, the cities, the counties, and it's going to be automatic. Like, all right, well, we got 5,000 people in our pension group. All right, we got 2.5 million in under management. Okay, bet we'll take 2 million of that. Like, the money's going to jump over stupid on that side, because people are going to, because one, the narrative of how ETFs are a safer financial instrument compared to the hard asset is going to get stupid. It's going to be pushed out a lot in this coming year. And folks who didn't pay attention to it before, who are still trusting of places like BlackRock and JP Morgan, and under the impression that agencies like the SEC are looking out for the everyday common person, are going to jump on this thing of, well, it's more trusted and more secure. Let me go for this derivative thing because a government head person okayed it. And it's a sad thing to watch. And it's also something else to note that I'm gonna bring up, because I got another story too that kind of draws into this, as far as what we have been seeing. And I didn't honestly pick up on this until probably like 2020, maybe 2021 is when I started saying it, but I think I started understanding it around 2020, is that one of the things that strong governments do is they buffer you from the resource, the direct control, the direct influence of the resource. One of the things that works out in technology, that we talk about the convenience factor of technology and how things are better, or how we innovate, is that we give you something that moves you further away from the direct influence and control of the resource or the product or the service. So case in point of how the computer now compared to a computer 15 years ago, case in point of the internet now compared to the internet 20 years ago, and the level of access you had to go anywhere in the internet versus how you're able to maneuver around the internet now. It's the same thing when you look at what's going on within the blockchain companies themselves, like direct layer one stuff. It's direct layer. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, X amount of the other stuff that's like layer one. And then you get let's do a second layer. Let's do layer two stuff. Let's do these derivatives. This is the part of what he's saying. When we get to the second layer, the derivative stuff, when you're able to influence who are the participators that will be assigned as gate guards, that's where the whole, like, okay, I see what you're saying. That is centralization. In my mind, what I am hoping for is that folks will, at least enough of us, will still remember and still be active in, like, hey, this technology actually allows you to still do peer-to-peer shit. This technology actually allows you to be able to, quote, be borderless. Why? Because the crypto is not actually on your wallet. Case in point, oh my God, I forgot to say this. This was a story. I so just remembered this. There was a case that just happened in California, I think, where a guy is suing a hacker. He had a SIM swap situation, and he ended up putting what is it called? It's the judge agreed that he could put in the message, hey, I'm suing you for stealing my crypto. And it was a Bitcoin, it was a Bitcoin thing. So, depending on the type of wallet you're using, you can put a message in on the signature. And so that's what he did. The judge okayed it. So it counts it that whoever stole his stuff, quote, is getting legal notice that he is being sued in court. So if the person or persons don't respond, he gets a default judgment saying, okay, we will now proceed in following the rules, the law on, if you look to sue someone, they don't show up in court, you get this thing to say, okay, they didn't show up, so you're presumed to be the plaintiff, the quote winner of this. In my mind, the thought process is this, and I'm gonna get back to the Gensler thing in a minute, but I should have remembered this story, and I seen it on Friday, and I was like, oh, I gotta remember this one. There have been a number of court cases at the state and the federal level that have happened over the last, I want to say, year and a half, I mean like 2023 and 2024, sorry, 2023 and 2022, that they were cases that were brought up by people who were more so looking to do things that brought the crypto degen space, the DeFi space, into the legal, the courthouse, and in order to set precedent for how am I saying this? Laws on the book, already on the books, would apply to situations within DeFi, or situations as looking at legal documentation. Like, can we kind of blockchain as being legal evidence or a legal document? And this case, I think, fits in that. What is this person trying to do here? Is it about the crypto, or is it about finding a new pathway for legal notice to be served in relation to blockchain technology? Because here's the other thing, like, you can serve somebody by putting a ad in the paper saying blah, blah, blah person is being sued. That counts in courts. Granted, who's reading papers like that now? You can serve people through Facebook. We've now just pushed on to another level of, he wins the forgot the word for it, the judgment, that sets precedent. And I told y'all, like, last year, back in when I was writing for that was like 2018, that China had already said in their version of the Supreme Court that blockchain records would count as legal documents. So, like, there's different jurisdictions that are looking at blockchains in the legal application. I don't think anyone's paying attention to this situation, which, I'm not going to run down that rabbit hole. The point being is that happened. I'm going to have to find the actual court case stuff, because I want to keep track of, like, where that one develops. I honestly don't think the dude is going to get the money back per se, because there's a number of other things in that story. Steve Leto. Shout out to Steve Leto. He's a lawyer dude from Michigan. He reads over these cases and people send him stuff all the time. I just happen to see the thing in my feed and I was like, wait, what? Bitcoin? What are you talking about? Interesting channel if you're into law stuff. Like I tell you all the time, I kind of pay attention to a couple of different things and I cross-reference a lot of information. He's one of the people that I pay attention to. Not saying you have to use him as an information source, just saying he's one of the people I pay attention to. So in relation to that court case, I think that this will lead into something else. I don't know exactly what, but I think it is an interesting application of how you serve someone court documents. And i.e., the plaintiff was using the signature line in the address, in the wallet address of the person or persons who are holding their crypto. And also, I think it was T-Mobile that was who that company was. They're also a plaintiff in the court in the case too. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this play out. Just something else to throw on the radar, going down the road. Now back to this thing with Gensler. Like I said, the idea of when you start adding these second and third layer things on, and you are in a position, whether it be through the regulatory side or be a part of the, what's the thing called, the bigger, the dominant player within the industry, the idea of being able to centralize how the users come into that space, it makes sense when he says something like that. But that's ignoring how the actual technology side works and how it's still applicable to be P2P, person to person. It's still applicable that I can go on the other side of the world and still have access, as long as I have the internet access, to certain different blockchains, right? Again, that's been one of the things that's been getting me over the last couple of years, is just watching how people are being narrated and pushed away from understanding the base part of the technology and its full utility. And they're being given, like, it's like, all right, it was the Android version, and then the government's pushing you to use the Apple version. And a lot of folks are okay with it. And I'm not mad at y'all for that. Like, hey, I'm not telling you how you have to use it. But don't be mad when you get caught out there by the same group that was telling you this is better than having base access or having multiple options. You like the clean environment? Cool. You like being in a glass house? Cool. You like being in a walled garden? Cool. I'm not cool with being in that though. That's just my thought on it. Nonetheless, I'm rambling on. Let me jump to this next story, y'all. Sorry. So, yeah, this is Udi Worthimer. I don't know how to say your name, dog. I'm so messing it up. All I know is a matter of fact, wait, where you at? Yeah, right there. UD Worthemer, dressed as wizard at Bitcoin 2023. Here's the point. So basically they have a whole thing of how they named it or whatever. Why I'm bringing this up is if we're talking about the expansion and utility of the Bitcoin protocol, Taproot has definitely been a player and has had influence in expanding some of the capabilities of Bitcoin's protocol in relation to going smart contract-ish like with NFT capabilities. And this whole quantum cat thing is like an NFT thing. But it's funny enough, it's off of like a code of line. It's when you can, what is it? Concatenate. Oh God, what is the word? Concatenate. So it's like putting two strings together. For the folks who are in the programming, you know what I'm talking about. Concatenate. There we go. Damn, that's the word. The folks who know about programming, you know what I'm talking about in regards to putting two strings together. Point being is that they did this. The bigger part to this is, in my mind, I think that with Ordinals having the run that it's had, and I'm not saying it in terms of prices, I'm saying it in terms of like, it seems like it's here to stay as far as people are interested in it. And I know somebody else who's even doing another project that's like Ordinal inscription related. This has arguably kind of given a second breath to trying to figure out some other applications of the blockchain, of the Bitcoin blockchain. And so granted, you know, some folks are like, no, let's just keep it strictly, you know, economic, transactional. Like, let's not get into the other stuff. But the irony is, like, at the end of the day, though, this is about data storage and transfer, right? So like the actual application of the technology is arguably irrelevant if it's at base, it's just about data storage and transfer. Like, and that's a real engineering way to look at it. I know, but I'm just saying, at base, if it's that, then like, I understand why we get caught up though on the whole thing of like price. I mean, like the money side versus the artistic side stuff. But this did happen, and I brought this up because Taproot has played a part within the whole Bitcoin protocol, and I think that this it'll lead us into something. And is it going to be good all the way through? I don't know. It could be. We could fail on this artistic side, and then somebody comes up with something like better off of it, right? Like that whole thing of like, what is it? Move fast and break things. This could be us taking 2 years to break stuff within the Bitcoin protocol as far as this like artistic side. And then on the 3rd or 4th year, we come up with something that's a lot better. That's at least my hope for this new reemergence of like, let's add some smart contract NFT stuff to the Bitcoin protocol. Because if we're saying that Bitcoin is the greatest thing since sliced bread as a protocol, and granted, I'm not the fan of like Swiss Army knifing everything, but considering what has been going on with a number of the other blockchains, especially with the whole transition into proof of stake and all of the other stuff, and we're seeing how that the consensus side mechanism for a number of other things have definitely moved into a more direct centralized setup that isn't about, you know, open access for everyone. Arguably, you know, maybe this might be the way to go. If you disagree with me, comments is open. I'm here for it. We can always push back. I appreciate the pushback, folks. All right, next one. What is it? The last like 3 months I've been talking about Hong Kong. So this situation happens. Hong Kong makes unexpected XRP move. In clarity, it is not Hong Kong that made the move. It is a firm in Hong Kong called HKVAC. And basically they're a crypto monitoring firm that is providing financial advice to folks in that market. I've listed a number of things that are going on in the Hong Kong sandbox and how Hong Kong is connected to the mainland, aka the sea state. And I've been saying about, you know, the papers market, the real precious metals market, the crypto market, the CBDC market, and the other financial instruments are all in that sandbox right now. Why this story caught my attention was when you read through it, it doesn't actually give you the full breakdown Ooh, sorry. Wait, Hong Kong Virtual Agency. I read that wrong. All right. So HKVAC is actually Hong Kong Virtual Asset Rating Agency. So it is an agency within Hong Kong. Woo, I read that one wrong. So this is arguably a government, not arguably, but this is a government agency. And they're saying, hey, we are going to say XRP is no longer in our top 5, and we're going to move up this other crypto thing called Solana. The article doesn't break down specifically what the metrics is in full on how they're saying, well, we're going to swap this out for this. We believe that Solana is a more secure, blah, 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 because of X, Y, and Z metric data points that we can say, look, here's the charts, here's the numbers, right? And so I bring it up because there's a couple of other things that I've had coming up on the radar where there's a lot of question around when a government or a notable company says, well, here's what we're telling you the story is, or here's what we say the numbers are, or here's the thing that you should trust. And then as X amount of time passes on, it turns out that whatever the company or the government said was either a half lie or just a full on, like, dog, you couldn't lie any lower than a fucking pig's belly in mud. Okay? And I think that this situation, and now I'm going to go back. Okay, bet. All right. So remember the thing I was saying earlier about Venezuela, and I said it the last couple of shows. I do think that there's a proxy game being played out within the crypto space. Hong Kong is a part of it, but it's also getting into the actual crypto companies. And there's at least like 2 or 3 companies that I think are a part of or that are on the playing board of this proxy thing going on between certain economic powers, right? In this particular case, y'all know I'm not an XRP person, I'm not a Solana person, but I thought it was interesting to note that a government agency just came in and was like, yeah, so XRP ain't it no more. Like, don't even touch that. It don't even exist. It don't even exist. But look at this Solana stuff. And I'm not telling you this as a price talk thing. I'm just saying to the initial point of, remember what I said, like, there's a thing going on where we see that we have to be more skeptic. We have to be more questioning of when government departments or government officials, as well as big name firm heads, Jamie Dimon, I'm looking at you, Gary Gensler, I'm looking at you, when they say things as, well, this is the position. Because it's like, how'd you come up with that? What's your basis? How can I verify that and validate that outside of you and your source? Make it make sense. How, Sway? That's why I throw this out there. And honestly, it's been like week for week, if not month for month, that Hong Kong has been in the news stories one way or another. Now, granted, not everybody's paying attention to Hong Kong the way I might be paying attention to Hong Kong. And I told y'all it was Arthur Hayes who was the one who said something that really got it to like ring in my ear. And every time I see something pop off, I'm like, oh, that's happening now? Oh, the CBDC is there now? Oh, oh God, they did something the other week. I can't remember right now. But the point being is, I'm not certain what this is an indicator of. I still have my peepers looking out for other indicators to see the trend or pattern is in my theory on the crypto proxy thing going on. I think I have a number of indicators that's like, yeah, there's something going on the back end between certain economic powers, and they're maneuvering each other in the crypto space. So Turkey confirms its draft rules for crypto assets are in the final stages. Bottom line is this. What is the name of the agency? The FAFTA. Is it FAFTA? So basically, Turkey is trying to... How do I say this? Turkey already has cryptocurrency exchanges and stuff, right? And so what's going on is the Financial Action Task Force, Turkey is on the gray list for them. So they can't fully participate in the traditional side banking that is connected to the crypto stuff. right? And so now it's like, well, okay, as opposed to us doing level 4 KYC, AML, and like as far as the regulatory stuff, pushing it down on the crypto companies, we are gonna now go up to level 7, right? Because now, what is it, AML 4? I think we're at AML 5 now. So they step in the game up in order to be able to participate more within the traditional financial not ruling, but the financial routes as far as how it works on the back end and how the systems talk and think and quote money moves through the system. So that's what this is about. Now, what's the name of their guy? God, what is his name? It's not Prime Minister. Well, yeah, okay. So the finance minister's name is Mehmet Simsek. Mr. Simsek, Simsek. He's basically like, all right, we're doing this, but you got to remember how their prime minister guy is. He's been kind of riding the fence for like the last 15 years. Well, no, he ain't been in there 15 years. He's been in there for a minute, y'all. He's been in there for a minute. And one of the complaints you hear about him in Western news sources is he's not fully with us. He's trying to do things where he plays friendly with the R state and then he'll come back over to us and then he does stuff that's like okay with the C state and then he'll stand and like not vote in public things with them. Like the West generally gets mad because he's not drawing a hard line in favor of the West. So the logic boils down to that if the leadership of the country isn't on board with the West, the way that other things within that government that fall under him are also not fully in sync with the West. This particular situation of them finalizing their crypto regulatory framework is to be more in sync with, in my mind, it's not just what's going on in the West as far as like the EU and stuff. In the bigger picture, if again, you look at what China, in the bigger picture, if you look at what the C state has been doing, if you look at what the R state have been doing, they've been setting up regulatory frameworks for what, more than 5 years now, 6 years. I've covered at least 4. So on a global scale thing, like everyone's stepping up their regulatory framework, the regulatory gaming policy stuff in relation to crypto. Why? Because at the end of it, they want to make sure that they can tap the pockets of the companies and they want to be able to throttle, control, monitor the capital flight. And if you know some of the squirrely folks or you paid attention to any of the old heads, the graybeards and folks like that, there's stories about places like Turkey, okay? There's stories about places like the Ukraine. So yeah, that's happening. And it's funny, for all the times that I've been talking about crypto regulatory stuff, Turkey has not come up like that. If you go back and look at the stories, like I don't think I have anything that's mentioned Turkey for a while. So the fact that this is coming out now, the fact that this is coming out now makes me wonder what is going to play out with Turkey in relation to crypto over the next 15 months. Because Turkey's been definitely, their prime minister has been saying some things publicly. He's also not on the greatest, friendly list with us. And I'll say us, I mean over here in the States, our government in particular, not like me personally, not like you directly. But it makes me wonder what else is going to come out related to crypto in the next 15 months. So indicator of something may happen, especially considering what's going on in that region right now. And remember, I brought up the point about how you're going to start seeing direct monetary agreements between different countries in relation to their CBDCs. The R state just did something with UAE. The C state just did something with Singapore. Like, the stuff is going to start coming out. This to me is one of those, like, what is this indicating? What's about to happen in that area for them? I think something's going to happen. I don't know what though. All right, next one. Oh, all right. So Coinbase partners with stablecoin exchange Yellow Card in African expansion. I brought up the point to you about how Coinbase expanded with the company out of Greece. Well, I guess the deal happened in December, but then it wasn't like publicized like that until beginning of this month in January. So why? Okay, this story caught my attention because, all right, the way that this is working. Remember the thing I said about how Coinbase had the companies that it was like invested in and connected to. Yellow Card is a company that Coinbase was invested in and connected to. So this is one of those like plays of like, hey, I got this side of the business. If you go over there and you set up shop over there, I can back you from what my business does. That's literally this play right here. Now, I don't know how much of the influence Coinbase might have had for what market Yellow Card went into to set up and stuff and like expand and stuff like that. But it is interesting to note that this is the situation of Coinbase isn't directly on ground like Binance is, but we will start to see how this expansion of the market between them as well as the local players, how that's going to work out. And other thing to note is, what does this actually mean for the local people there, right? Like some folks might argue, well, oh, this would be a good thing because then they would have more liquidity and be able to like liquidate whatever their position is better, blah, blah, blah. But arguably, if you know anything about how Coinbase work, and when they all of a sudden have technical issues, like if you're in Nigeria or if you're in Accra, like, is this the best move? Is this the best, company to go through there? And then the other part of the idea that like, what was it? It's Nigeria. Nigeria's a sizable portion of the population is still maneuvering through cash. I don't know how Yellow Card works because I haven't looked into them, but like how much of their stuff is KYC related? And what does that market adoption look like? Like, so, because they throw the whole thing about like, oh, well, this would work to help expand into the remittance market, But arguably, no, it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game in that I could spend the first 2 to 3 years not charging you as much as Western Union, and then you would get your stuff, quote, faster, right? And then once I get past a certain adoption point of, let's say we start out with 50,000 people in the first 6 months, and then by a year later, I'm at like 200,000 people. But my target number is like 250,000 so that I can increase the price. That in my mind, like that's how the stuff starts calculating out right now. It's like, this sounds cool for convenience. This sounds cool for time preference, right? But in the long run, being X amount more dependent on this system. And again, remember the other thing that I was telling y'all about the story with what Nigeria was doing with the whole like, oh, we're going to make it harder for local crypto startups to get into the game by making this new license agreement thing that's going to cost more money up front. And we know it's the foreigners who have the money. So the foreign companies are going to be able to set up shop easier and faster than the local folks. So what do you have happening then? It's a capital extraction mechanism. Bottom line, it's a capital extraction mechanism in that a company that's not directly connected to the continent or any of the countries in is using a sub company in the neighborhood, and then the value or the capital is going to be pulled out of the market and returned upstream to Coinbase that is at the higher part of the value chain. Like, I'm not saying that there won't be people who, quote, get jobs out of this. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just looking at it going like, how does this actually work with people at the ground level? Because like, here's the other thing that irks me for what I see going on right now with expansion for pretty much all of how exchanges like Coinbase are moving. The argument of, oh, it's about financial inclusion. No, because if it was about financial inclusion, it would be an easier process to get people in, and you wouldn't require the stuff that you require for them to be able to use the technology. Point blank, point simple, right? I'm not even gonna work myself up on this one because I know I could ran off and I've been running off enough already. So jumping on to this last story. So yeah, that happened. Expect to hear more stuff coming out of the different African countries in relation to how Cold Card is either being adopted or it's how it's not making the market penetration. I don't know which way it's gonna go. I just know those are one of the two things that could happen. Either they're having market adoption or the public is like, nah, we're not messing with y'all. We don't like y'all. Next one. XRP Lawsuit. SEC files new demands against Ripple. Yo, SEC is being petty. So basically, they're going, all right, the judge said that y'all were cool on the regular side of the market, selling off the XRP stuff. Okay, all right, cool. Well, we want documents from the institutional side so we know how much that we can fine you. wait a minute, what that got to do with anything, dog? Like, you don't need to see that document in particular to find us. You can find us and we'll pay and call it a day. The SEC is being real professional petty right now. If the judge says they got to give up the document, they're going to end up having to give up the document and they're going to have to eat a fine. But I think arguably this is them trying to find another way to weasel in on like, well, we're not going to walk away with a total loss from y'all. Like, it's one of those sore loser things, if y'all get what I'm saying. It's one of those sore loser things. And that's what the SEC is doing right now with Ripple, as far as demanding that they give them these two documents from 2023 and 2022 in relation to the institutional side buyers or the sales, that how that whole thing worked out and who went or like who got what and all of that. And so, yeah, last ditch effort to not look like they were total losers in the court case. That's my take on it. I'm not a lawyer, though. You could totally disagree with me. You could totally see it as a different thing of they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's. You could totally see it as, oh, they're looking to, you know, help protect the industry and blah, 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 blah. Hey, if that's how you're looking at it, that's how you're looking at it. I know how I'm looking at it. But anywho, that's my last one right there. Yo, I definitely kind of was sidelining on a number of things, but I apologize for that, y'all. But y'all know how I get sometimes in talking about these things, especially when I start like referencing older time periods and like, you know, crossing other information in that I'm aware of. But that's that. Again, I'm not a price talk guy. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. And in my mind, if you're saying that this technology and like the wonders of its disruption of what it's supposed to be, why would I only talk about what's happening here in the States when it's a lot of other things happening across the globe in relation to crypto and blockchain technology? But anywho, closing it out there. It's a Monday. As I say, well, before I jump into that, again, this episode is brought to you by CJ the Smart Guy. He is a CPA, fully certified. He specializes in cryptocurrencies. So if you've been doing whatever it is you've been doing and you ain't crossing your T's and dotting your I's and you're not aware of how the IRS is refocusing their sights on the regular tax paying folks because it takes too much effort to go after the criminals. If you've been in crypto and you're using a centralized exchange, the exchange is telling on you, your job is telling on you, depending on the wallet, the crypto wallet you're using, the wallet's telling on you. So because you KYC'd at some point, the IRS knows how to match up certain numbers. Now, I'm not saying this to you as a financial advisor, a lawyer, or a CPA. I just note that if you're in the American jurisdiction, you may want to cross your T's and dot your I's by talking to a professional person who knows how to handle this stuff. Just throwing it out there. Not saying you got to use this guy that I actually use myself. I don't get no kickback. This is not a referral link. I'm just throwing it out there in full disclosure. But nonetheless, y'all, like, it's 2024 and you already see CZ is no longer in Binance. XRP, as far as the retail side, is not considered a securities. And Gary Gensler is still sitting in his position, and now it is an ETF. Heaven knows what the rest of this year is going to bring to us. But anywho, it's a Monday, y'all. So as I say, have a productive over busy day. If it cannot be productive, at least be in a safe place, in a safe space, in a good company. And from one human to the next, that is the best that I can wish you. Other than that, man, yeah, one.
Oh.